Now, historians in America have been having a field day, as they say here in America, with the newly released Jacqueline Kennedy tapes, an interview with the former First Lady that was recorded just about 4 months after the assassination of her husband, John F. Kennedy. It has been kept under wraps for nearly 50 years, and these tapes contain the most detailed and personal comments ever heard by Jackie Kennedy. And it now seems she had a lot of strong opinions on many people. Doug Wead is a presidential historian. He is in our Washington bureau. Thanks for being with us, Doug. First, I want to, of course, Jacqueline Kennedy, we're seen here all over the world on CNN International, very much an icon of the 20th century. I want to play a clip for you and our viewers of one of the things she said back in 1964 about her role as a political wife.
I was always a liability to him until we got to the White House. And he never asked me to change or said anything about it. Everyone thought I was a snob from Newport who had bouffant hair and had French clothes and hated politics.
Doug, I was always a liability to him. It's hard to imagine today because she became such an asset later on.
Yeah, she really was. Well, you know, she had a different relationship with men, starting with her father, whose infidelities broke up the marriage, Black Jack. And then the relationship with her father-in-law. She loved Joe Kennedy, Jack Kennedy's father, not so much Rose. She was close to Joe Kennedy, who was promiscuous. There were her husband's infidelities, and she may have felt inadequate. I mean, where are her girlfriends? She's surrounded, she's close to Robert Kennedy, the brother-in-law, but none of the sisters-in-law. And she invites into her life Teddy White and Schlesinger and William Manchester, all of these men. So she may have had some self-doubt. Apparently, this is coming through in these tapes.
And in the tapes also you hear what her definition of the role of a wife should be in a marriage, which today sounds a bit antiquated. At the time probably fit in with the time. But it's not all men she was in admiration of. Let's listen to what she said of Dr. Martin Luther King, and then I'll get back to you, Doug.
Well, he said what an incredible speaker he was during that Freedom March thing. And, you know, when he acknowledged that having made that call during the campaign got them. Then he told me of a tape that the FBI had of Martin Luther King when he was here for the Freedom March. And he said this with no bitterness or anything. How he was calling up all these girls and arranging for a party of men and women. I mean, sort of an orgy in the hotel and everything.
Martin Luther King?
Oh, yeah. At first he said, oh, well, you know, and I said, oh, but Jack, that's so terrible. I mean, that man is, you know, such a phony then.
MLK, such a phony.
Well, to me, this is healthy. When you look at her life, she's always apologized for the man in her life, whether it was her dad or her father-in-law or her own husband. Ended up marrying, after it was all over, a man who his whole life was in love with another woman, Maria Callas. So here's a rare instance where she's showing a little bit of anger, and that the man may be at fault.
Well, and I was going to say, she showed anger and maybe a bit of bitterness toward women. Women who were their own woman, who wanted their own power. Indira Gandhi was one of them, where she called her bitter. So there's another side to Jackie Kennedy in these tapes that isn't sort of the demure, silent, mysterious, you know, First Lady, where she's got a, you know, she's got kind of a sharp tongue there.
She does, and with her it was a two-edged sword. She had great beauty and she was very bright. She spoke 3 languages and dabbled in 3 other languages. She was a great historian, understood art and literature. In fact, the book I wrote, I relied heavily on her study of presidential children. So she would be intimidating to a man. So I think both her beauty and her intelligence, she learned how to be deferential and innocent and feminine to disarm the man so he could talk to her, so he would be confident enough to talk to her.
Right. It may not be politically correct to say. Some would say even in 2011 that might work.
Well, you know, I'll just say this. She followed Mamie Eisenhower, so you got to keep the context in line. And Mamie Eisenhower never flew on an airplane. She always took a train. And here comes Jackie Kennedy flying all over the world, speaking all of these languages. So for her time, she was very much a great woman.